Hello and welcome to a Bergkamp Wonderland. I'm Gimli and tonight I'll be joined by... First up, since the news broke late last week that mini cheddars are half price at Tesco, we've not seen hide nor hair of him. But we found him, producer Danny the GFP. Hello, Danny.
Listen to this. Oh, packs of mini cheddars.
It sounds like you're slapping some meat there.
Shut up. Got the new bacon ones. Piggy meat.
Oh,
and I hope it was killed correctly.
Next up, joining us all the way from Poland, he's been nearly as anonymous as Danny. It's Steve, Mr. Lord Hillwood. Hello, Steve.
Hello, Gib. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. What have you been doing away from the pod since we've last spoke?
Shagging.
Work, shagging. Work, more bloody work. Business trips, spending time with with Lady Hillwood, and more bloody work, really.
So if Hide the Sausage was an Olympic event, you'd be going for gold.
I couldn't possibly comment. You may say that, I possibly couldn't.
That's another exclusive. Next up, another man that's been out of the fray of late. It's our grumpy Venezuelan, John. Hello, John.
Hello, lads. How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. And what have you been doing with yourself?
Absolutely fuck off.
Drinking a lot of Jack, I hope.
Considering Arsenal's form of late, going through bottles of Jack Daniels.
So I'd hate to see your recycling bin. Do you have recycling? Do you have recycling bins in Spain?
We do, and mine's fucking chock full of bottles right now.
Oh, Jesus. It sounds good anyway. Next up, he tweets what he wants, and when he does, the world watches. It's Geoff Arsenal. Hello, Geoff.
Evening, gentlemen. You all right?
Yeah, people are expecting you to get a bit of hammering tonight.
Yeah, well, what difference does it make? Or was 1 week to the next, mate? One night to the next, Gib.
Have you got the boxing gloves on?
Yeah, I'll no, he's a bare knuckle tonight, mate.
Old school.
You'll watch yourself.
Is that allowed going bare knuckle? This is a family podcast, not some gay blooming Earls Court pub.
Yeah, bare knuckle, mate. Sure to worry about that. Get amongst it.
He's only taken the gloves off because he couldn't get his fist up. We all know where I'm going with that. And finally, it's my pleasure to welcome back long-time friend of the show and ex-Arsenal midfield hardman, Mr. Dave Hillier. Hello, Dave.
Hello, Gims. Nice one, mate. Good to be back.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you back. We've been asking you. You don't return my calls.
No, sometimes you really just keep bugging. You're like a stalker, mate. So I have to sort of put you on hold. But I thought I'd keep you quiet with the big game coming up at the weekend and do a little bit for you tonight, mate.
Yeah, we look forward to your analysis, definitely.
I've got my stats ready. Opta is on.
Oh, Danny, see?
Oh.
Danny, hey?
I can't even get onto Opta. How do you get onto Opta? Do you have a password?
I can't divulge that information. I'm gifted it from Arsenal Media, so
bless
I could use it, but I cannot abuse it.
Much like Gimli's love life.
Yeah. How moist are you right now, Danny? Right, we'll start by going over to you, Danny, for all the latest Arsenal scores and an up-to-date injury report.
Okay, right. We've had quite an impressive result this week. The under-21s played Man City at our ground, and we beat them 4-3. And Man City have got more money than the entire of the UK put together, with or without Scotland. It's all about the same. It makes it sound like a really close game being 4-3, but it wasn't, because they scored in the 89th and we got an own goal in the 90th minutes. So that's a really good result. Well done to them. We're now up to 16th in the league out of 22 teams. That's a decent run. It's nice to see. It's been a really hard season for the under-21s, because as we all know, with our first team having so many injuries, every time we need someone, we dip into the under-21 squad, like the likes of Gnabry and Zalelelelem, although he hasn't played much. And this is playing. Plus, you can have, I think, 3 over 21-year-old players in the squad, in your under-21 squad. So they've probably had none of those all season, because they just keep nicking them all, or they're all injured. So yeah, another bit of a good run, which is nice to see. The next home game is home to Leicester this Monday, 7 p.m. kickoff. So if you go, give them away from us. The under-21s. No, the under-18s. I've just done the 21s. The under-18s beat Newcastle 1-0 at home last Saturday, which is another good result, because the under-18s won the first game of the season against Liverpool and then went virtually the next 6 months without winning a single game. And they've had a couple of decent wins now. So they're now up to 9th in the league, but they're never going to go any higher than that, 'cause the team above them have got about 20 more points. And that team's got 11 Thank you. That team's got 11 teams in that league, but much like the under-21s, the team's been ravaged by injuries. Loads of players have been sent out on loan, others have gone on trial, others have been released, like Jamal Rage, he's gone, he went back to Sweden, and a few others have been let go. And this week they've got another youngster, or last week they've got another youngster in from Fulham, a right-winger, Portuguese bloke who looks pretty decent. Their next home game is the Friday the 25th of April at home to Wolves. Then tonight, the most important thing, the Arsenal youth, which I think may be a combination of under-21 and under-18, are playing in the Youth Cup semi-final first leg away at Chelsea. And so that's kicked off either at 7:45 or 8 o'clock, I can't remember. And the second leg is next Thursday. So if any point during the show I can go and find the result, I will let you know how they're doing. Because if we can beat them and get to the final with a team ravaged with so many players missing, that's one hell of a season.
It's half-time 0-0.
Ah, lovely. Chris did this last week. I had no idea where to look. I look at the Arsenal site and they didn't have it on there. Right, injuries. All that scores and stuff was taken from George Bird's site, which is arsenalyouth.wordpress.com. Cheers for that, George. And all the wonderful pictures were taken by Kieran, the quadruple hooded little shitbag. Injuries we're taken as usual from arsenalreport.com/injury room. Right, this has got 11 injuries and 1 suspension. This is ridiculous. Diaby, ACL, he's back. All of these players are back any day now. Diaby with his ACL, Ozil with his hamstring, Gibbs with his ankle foot injury, Koscielny, calf shin injury, Rosicky, hip thigh injury, and Fabianski's got the sniffles. So they should all be back any day now, or give or take. When it gets to being back to full fitness, then you're never too sure, are you, when they're going to be back. The Ox with groin pelvis injury 2 weeks. Gnabry knee injury 2 weeks. Wilshere ankle foot injury 3 weeks. Walcott ACL 3 months, and then he's never going to be the same after that, according to our man Dom. Miachi hamstring injury out for the season, and Matteo Flamini 2-game ban. He's back for the whole game in the Premier League. So there you go. That's all she wrote.
Thank you.
Was it just me, or did I read yesterday that the Abbey and Gibbs got injured in training?
There was some talk about that, but I can't find any more information other than it might have been a slight knock, or it might be out for a little bit longer, because one site says Gibbs down as being 2 weeks. But then I had a look at 2 other sites, and they both said it could be any day now. So I think they're still assessing that. Hopefully it'll be any day now. And Diaby would bloody get an injury blow in his nose.
I'd like it to turn out actually that Wenger's just playing mind games and he's just lying, and then he's going to turn out a full team including Ozil, just to fuck up Wigan, lull him into a sense of full security.
That would work. Go on in, Gim.
The only game to analyse this week was our 3-0 away defeat to Everton. So to tell us what's gone wrong and to give us his analysis, we'll go straight over to Danny.
We've decided this week that it's all going to be positive, and so my assessment of the Arsenal-Everton game, I'm not going to say a word because there's no point, because I have not a single thing to say other than well done Everton and good luck in the Champions League next season.
Okay, we'll jump straight over to Dave then. If you could give us a bit more of an in-depth analysis, providing you talk about it.
Well, I think we just, for two-thirds of the game, or 2/3 of the pitch, we didn't do too bad in. Defensively in the midfield, didn't do too bad. And when you look at the stats, 57% possession, we had 578 passes to Everton's 431. How do they make them passes count more than we do? Because we just struggled up front. We didn't get no support to the front. And we just struggled at that end of the pitch. We didn't actually threaten them. And I think teams now are quite happy to play their back line nice and high, push us up the pitch, so that they can condense our midfield, let us have that little bit of possession around the back and across the midfield. They're happy. I don't think teams see us as a threat. I think we need to be able to change our game to suit the teams we're playing. We try and play the same all the time. It ain't working. And just that forward line was terrible. And then, to be down and not to change the side at half time. Come on, Arsenal. At some point, you've got to start changing that side earlier and getting some people on the pitch. Just looking at the stats again, 15 shots Arsenal had, Everton had 14, but they had 7 on target, we had 5. And ours were poor. To be honest, ours were poor. They made all theirs count. We just struggled from the start of the game again, and heads were down. I just think we are tired. We're looking a bit weak in areas, certainly up front. I think ever since Giroud's problems off the pitch, what he did have, which was okay, has gone, and he's a man struggling. I think at some point we've got to maybe push an extra player up front, play Podolski up front, give Giroud a break, get him out the side.
So Oxlade-Chamberlain never started. Do you think that this was a mistake, Dave?
Yeah, definitely. I think it was a mistake. I'd have played him. I wouldn't have played with two holding midfielders. I think that's just a waste. And what you saw was Flamini having to make endless runs into the box just to try and make some space and to try and stretch their team so that the likes of Cazorla could get involved. And he only got involved when Flamini made that run, someone tracked him, a space opened up in the midfield, and we was able to retain possession up there. Otherwise, you're just asking Olivier Giroud to hold the ball up. And, that's like asking my missus to hold my bits and pieces up. It don't happen no more. And it's not happening for Giroud. I just think we needed someone to stretch him, to threaten them, to run him behind, who plays in a forward position. I know Flamini tried it, but he's not the man to do it. If that was me, I wouldn't have had Mikel Arteta in the side. Every time he got booed, he could feel, you could see the crowd on his back and he could feel it. I wouldn't have played him. He's not having a great time at the moment. I'd have played Flamini holding, and I'd have put Ox in the midfield and said, just run up and link with Giroud as much as you can. Run off him, get him behind the defenders. They're not the quickest at the back. This stand's kind of quick, but, I think he's a bit deceiving and he's liable to make mistakes. I think if the Ox had played on him and run off of him, I think we'd have picked something up. And if we'd have got that early goal, could have been a different story. But I don't think Everton were ever worried about us. That was what worried me. I don't think they ever worried about us.
No. We'll go over to you next, John. Dave said there about the substitutions not coming at half-time, and I know we spoke in the WhatsApp group, and I think we were all a bit dumbfounded why he hadn't changed the team at half-time. Could you argue that some of the substitutions he made were not the right ones, i.e. Flamini coming off instead of Arteta?
Well, I think it's obvious that Arteta isn't having his, the best time right now. As Dave mentioned, when Flamini's your box-to-box midfielder and Arteta's your defensive mid, I think you're starting the game off on a negative note anyway. When we all knew that the changes were going to come between 67 and 70 minutes, as they always do, when they should have come much earlier. Arteta should have been off the pitch instead of Flamini. I think things are obvious. I mean, it's getting to the point now that things are obvious from the standpoint of beginning tactics. Who should the starting 11 should be out of the players that are healthy and are available, and who in the first 10 minutes if we're up for it or not. And there's, not to name anybody specific, but there's many coaches, managers that will change a side at 30 minutes if it doesn't go their way. And I think that was that kind of match. You kind of knew what was going to happen right off the bat, and and just the refusal to change anything is kind of becoming a thing.
And Geoff, we'll go over to you next. Of course, a lot of negativity after that game. Is there anything that you can see as a positive to come out of that?
No, there wasn't many positives, was there? To be honest with you, I mean, it was just a shambles. It was really poor. We was poor all over the pitch. I think Everton are a decent side. That's, mustn't take anything away from them. They're a really, really good side now. But I think, as Dave said, that these teams that they've tumbled, that we haven't got any pace at all. So we very rarely are going to run in behind them. Our play has got to be in front of their back four all the time. And once our fullbacks are bombing on, and once we lose possession of the ball, we've got gaping big holes behind the two fullbacks. And if anyone has got any kind of pace against us, if you notice, they played the big black fellow. Would you kid the player at Chelsea played on the right? Yeah, he played on the right hand side, didn't he? You know, against Monreal, it wasn't it? I think.
Yeah.
And you know, we was being exposed every time the ball. You know, we lost the ball. We lost possession of the ball. There was pressing us in midfield, like you said. Once Arteta was losing the ball, boom, it was on us. We were banging trouble, and that's because we haven't got anyone. We've got nothing offering up front to run in behind, and. Like the boys have said, that Ollie Giroud is having a bad time at the moment. Nothing seems to be sticking. No one's got any confidence of him. That's the problem. Once the ball's on his way up, if you haven't really got the confidence he's going to pull it down or play you in, you're not really, you know, you're half-hearted getting there. You're not really getting involved to get there. You know, and you know, as much as I love Santi Cazorla, I'm not sure. Honestly, I think sometimes he's a passenger. I love his technique. I love his ability on the ball. But the game is not just about going forward. In the Premier League, you have to be able to defend as well. And if Santi's in your team against these physical teams, I've seen he struggled this year. And I think that's to detriment of the football club. You know what I mean? And we're making defensive mistakes, whether it be positionally or whether we've just switched off for a minute. Or, you know, even the one-to-ones, we've not been good enough. Individual errors are coming again, you know, and it's been a cause, especially in the last 5 or 6 games, the last 6 or 7 weeks or whatever. But one thing I must say, you take 4 or 5 of our best players, which are out at the moment, out of any team, and any team would struggle as well. So, you know, as much we've not done very well. And it's boring saying about the injuries. It is a fact of the matter. We're really, really missing them players now. Now, I'm not a lover of Theo, as you most probably well know. He's a fantastic player. Don't get me wrong. I think he could do a lot better than that. But we miss him badly at the moment because we haven't got that pace up top.
Geoff, can I ask you a question alluding to the injuries?
Yeah.
I completely agree with what you said, that, you know, you take, you know, the top 5 or 6 players out of any side and they're going to struggle, no matter what the checkbook, you know, has allowed them to put on the bench. But at that point, don't you change the tactics and the game plan to suit the needs of or the abilities of the players you have available at that point, and forego your pride of what you've built with the ones that are missing to go ahead and just make do with what you have available at that moment?
Yeah, personally, I think you're right. Personally, I would definitely change it. I think the game has moved on now, and Arsene does need to look at the opposition more than what he has done. You know, we can't just rely on, we're going to go and outplay them and outscore teams. These teams they're very clever now. You've got these managers that they look at every single game. They'll watch the last 4 or 5 games that we've played, and they'll examine exactly what we're doing wrong. And that has happened, I'm sure, in the last 4 or 5 games that we've played, because we've come unstuck and it's been the same thing all the time. We've just got swamped in the midfield, the ball gets lost and bombed there way down the flanks, and we're 1 and 2 and 3 behind before we can even get back in the game.
And we'll go over to you, Steve, next. I noticed during the game you made a comment about Everton putting 2 players on Nacho Monreal. Do you think that they singled out our weak link and that's why they overrun us on the day?
No, I think Martinez is a very intelligent young manager. He's very tactically astute. And, you know, as Geoff said, he's probably watched our last 4, 5, 6 games, and he's probably watched the games against City and Liverpool. He's probably watched us even play, you know, the Champions League games. You know, when you've got a situation where you've got a forward isolated up front and fullbacks bombing on, trying to get in behind people, trying to put the ball in, you know, that leaves gaps. But, you know, Nacho was also, if you like, had his situation made worse because he's got Podolski in front of him. And we all know Podolski, bless his heart, is a cheerful soul and a lunatic, but he doesn't like defending and he doesn't do it. And he left, you know, Nacho more open than some brass at King's Cross on a Friday night with David Pleatley lurking round the corner. You know, that's why Lukaku and Coleman were put on Nacho, because Martinez knew that Podolski wouldn't track back. He knew he would defend, and even if he did, it wouldn't be particularly that effective. You know, and they exploited that. I mean, I think you've got to look at the whole way that the side was set up, the side was picked. You know, Arteta, bless him, it's his old club. He's not having a good time. His legs seem to have gone. His pace seems to have gone. I don't know whether any of the rest of you have noticed, but I've noticed in the last 5 or 6 games he seems to think he needs to take an extra touch. And that extra touch is always when he gets caught, because they're on him straight away. They know he can't get away. They hassle him, and he's losing the ball just as the teammates are bombing on, and they come the other way. And that's what happened against Chelsea, and that's what happened against Everton as well. And I agree with what Geoff's saying. I think in tough big games, I think where it's hard to find space, where you've got to retain the ball, and where you've got to move to make space and move to make chances. I think Cazorla does struggle sometimes, and that, if you compare that with what Ozil was doing, and how he does it, and how he'll drag 4 guys off with him and hold them off, standing there in the middle of them like a ballerina, the difference between the two of them couldn't be more exaggerated. But it all goes back again. We're not adjusting for opponents, and if you think, it's quite arrogant, really. We're not giving opposing managers any credit for being professional, being able to do their job. We're not giving opposing teams any credit for being any good. We're not adjusting for their star players. We're not adjusting for their tactics. And we pay for it. And then, we go 2-0 down at half time. We don't change anybody. And then you go and think, oh, well, we'll just leave this for another 15 minutes. Oh, fuck me. We've scored the 3rd goal and the fucking game's over. What a great fuck up that was. And it's the point. Yeah, I understand you can say you took 4 people out. Of any team, they'd struggle. The difference is that Chelsea would struggle, and so would City, but they'd get a fucking draw. They wouldn't lose 3-0. For me, I think the whole reason, and I want to ask Dave what he thinks of this, is I think the reason that the confidence is gone is that the players are not confident in the tactics and the setup they're being asked to deploy, and they don't think it works. And I'm actually wondering whether you're seeing a hint there of the fact that he's lost some of the dressing rooms, that he is putting out tactics. Players are not believing in it, especially with the personnel we've got due to the injuries and limited availability. And that has a massive impact on confidence. I mean, Dave is an ex-player, can tell us more about that.
Yeah, I agree with that, Steve. I think, first of all, I'll go back to what you said about having tactics and, looking at your opposition. You look at, when we used to play, you'd look at their strengths and you'd look at their weaknesses. So you try and nullify their strength and you exploit their weakness. And that's purely what teams have been doing to us. The Lukaku situation, they must have watched Man City, because the Man City game, Gibbs obviously got no help in that first half. He got battered in the first 20 minutes. Man City were just raping down that side. Navas, he was getting in time after time, pushing down that side, being the extra player. Couldn't pick him up. There was 3 or 4 players at times. I did the Man City game, and on the average position, Gibbs had 3 Man City players on him or around him in that first 20 minutes. Constantly running at him. Podolski was over the halfway line still. That was his average position. Weren't helping him out. So I think managers look at that and say, there's an area we can exploit. Regardless of what players play in there, we know that the way Arsenal play, and if Podolski plays, that's what we're going to do. And you could see when Lukaku got his goal, he looked over to the bench, didn't he? Give Martinez the finger, saying, "Thanks, boss. You told me to do that. You told me to get the ball out on the right, cut inside. They'll back off me. They're not as strong as me, and you knew that I'd be able to get a goal." And you could see that in his face. That was a pure out-and-out tactic. And then moving that forward, I think, the players, they're playing with that little lack of confidence. And without a natural leader on the pitch, I think they're looking to the manager for some guidance. And because of, I don't know, whether he's just stubborn or he believes so strongly in his ways that his philosophy will pay off. He hasn't, for me, given them all the guidance that they need. He hasn't tweaked the team. We've heard rumours this week that they've actually had a meeting and said, they actually want him to have some input with them and tell them, how they should play against teams and how they should adapt. They actually want to do that because they know that what they're doing isn't getting the results. It might get the results against 40%, 50% of the teams in the league, but slowly they're getting snuffed out. We saw it at Southampton weeks and weeks ago when it was the draw. Southampton could have battered us that day. And, for all of Southampton's good players, they're not as good as Arsenal. But they had a game plan. And all of these managers are gradually getting this little game plan against Arsenal. And before you know it, if we continue like that, we won't even be competing in that top area.
Do you know?
Go on. Sorry.
Dave, I've got a question for you. When you was playing, the game starts off, game kicks off, and in the first 2 or 3 minutes, but they're all over you. They're swamping all over you, everywhere.
Yeah.
Wide, coming through the middle, right? Bump, you go 1-0 down. You're an experienced midfield player, right? And we got experienced players on the pitch, very experienced. Surely they've got to sit in and say, right, just hold the fort. No fullbacks bombing on. Just sit in, sit tight, keep our shape. Let's keep it tight for 15 minutes, then we play our game. Am I right in saying that, David? Because we don't seem to be doing that, do we?
No, we'd have done that, and then normally you find it's not the whole team that's swamping you. It's 1 or 2 players in their team.
Yeah.
Because their back 4 ain't going to be swamping you. That's different. They're out of the picture. The back 4.
Yeah, they're front 5. They're front 5 or 6, isn't it?
Yeah. I would get told by Baldy or Tony.
Exactly.
Go and do him. Take him, follow him around. Don't give him no space. Sit on him. Anders tuck in. Whoever's on the right, tuck in and fill in. Nigel and Lee would just keep nice and tight, keep their shape. We squeeze up the pitch.
But what I mean is, as footballers, because you're out there, you're feeling the game, right? You're feeling the game. You understand me, right? You do that yourselves, wouldn't you? You can feel the game. You know that's what's got to happen.
Yeah,
you don't really need the coaching from the sidelines, do you?
You wouldn't just carry on trying to play the same way you always play when it's all rosy. No, of course you wouldn't.
That's the point I'm trying to make. Yeah,
you would. But the thing is, and I mean, I spoke to. I mean, it's a little bit off tangent here, but I was with Franny Jeffers last year playing in a tournament, and he said to me, "Best club I've ever been at, Arsenal. Best football, best coaches, best everything." I know it was probably the best money he ever picked up, but that's besides the point. But I said to him, "Why didn't it happen for you?" He said, He said it was the fact that I made my life on, taking my career on taking half chances, taking a gamble, having a shot. And he said, and everyone you couldn't do that at Arsenal. He said they was too afraid to do it because that weren't the way the manager thought. It had to be a clear opportunity. You had to pass and all of that. And I think the actual players are a little bit frightened to step out of the mould that he set them in. So when you say me as a player and my team would have took it on ourselves to close ranks and pull in tight, fuck the offensive game, stop trying to play that. We might put the ball in behind when we get a chance. We'll squeeze up. We'll try and win the ball in the final third. I don't think that they feel like they're allowed to do that. So they just continue to go under their directive of what the managers started it out as.
Yeah.
And I think I just think that's what happens. I don't think it's anyone's. I don't think you can blame anybody. I think it's grown to become that. And when it does that, it is time for some sort of change because everybody susses it and they know Arsenal ain't going to change the way they play, even if we do batter them. So we're just, we ain't got nothing to worry about. And that's what worries me. That's the feeling I get. Like the last year or so with George, we'd go all over the country and win 1-0, but we'd win easy 1-0. We'd get a goal in front. No one could break us down. We knew that. But then gradually they sussed us and, other teams gradually started getting up there and you could feel as a player, it was time to change something. Something had to change. The team, you could feel there was a change was coming and it did happen. I mean, Bergkamp came, David Platt came, we started to sort of change the way the club played and then Wenger came and they had that change and that was a perfect timing. We had great players coming in, Vieira, Petit and, Pires and all of them great players who came in. And that was the perfect time for the change. George's time had run its course. I'm just wondering whether Arsenal's style has run its course. Not necessarily him, because he can change, but whether they need a few new players and a little bit of a different tactic now and then start thinking about what the Mourinho's are doing and what the Martinez is doing and what the Brendan Rodgers is doing. He changes his team halfway through a game. He changes the formation and it works. Liverpool haven't got the best team in the league, but I tell you what, they have got by far the best tactical manager in this country at the moment in Brendan Rodgers.
Plus
Fantastic.
they're only playing once a week.
Yeah, you can argue that, and obviously our injuries have played a part in that. We'll see next year when they're in a few competitions. But just the way the team responds, you know, 2 ranks of players, and they play pretty much like we used to. They've got 6 defending players in their team, and the rest of them are allowed to go and roam. And them 6 players will accept that, yeah, we might not be the best, we might not be allowed to go and attack or do loads going forward, but we're going to support those 5 influential players who win us games, and we're going to do whatever the manager says, and we believe in it. And if he says 3 up front, we believe in it. If he says 1 up front with 2 off of him, we believe in it. Even if he went 4-4-2, they could play it, you know, and they could play it well. And he's just got that. He's just got that about him.
Yeah, but, true. He does. He's gone through it at the back in numerous games, doesn't he? You know, when it's gone on a little bit and got a result.
All sorts. He's changed at all sorts. You know, made players just sit back. You know, when they want to go forward, no, sit in the midfield and hold. You've got to stop that from happening. Let a player go on the other side. He's played Sterling in a few different positions. You know, and he's made him a wonderful player. And really, all he's got is a bit of speed. He's no different to Theo.
Mm. The 3 attackers are phenomenal, though, aren't they? The pace that they got. Sorry, Gim. The 3 attackers with the pace they got on. I mean, Suarez is maybe arguably the best centre forward in the world at the moment, isn't he?
Yeah.
Once you got players and match winners, game changers like that, you've got a chance. Unfortunately, we haven't really got one, have we?
We haven't. No, we haven't, and we've struggled since Theo got his injury. Even though I'm on your side a bit, I don't think Theo's the best in the world. But what he is, he's fast and he pins people back, and they worry about him, and that just creates that little bit of space that our team play in between the midfield and the forward.
Yeah, the 10 yards. That's all you need, don't you? 5 or 10 yards.
10, 15 yard space, but without anyone to stretch the other team, that's gone. We ain't got that space. So your likes of Cazorla, Rosicki, they ain't getting involved in it. You know, there ain't nowhere for them to get involved. They're out wide, cutting in, playing it backwards, you know, playing fiddly little passes in an area that's only 5 metres now instead of being 15. It's not stretched. And we've missed Theo massively for it. Massively.
The problem is once you've got it in your mind that Arsenal play that way, right? You just tell your midfielders go, and if you all do it together, the 3 midfielders and the 2 fullbacks push in and press together, right? You are going to nick the ball off us, aren't we? Because we're not infallible.
Yeah, and the thing is, they're not even worried if they don't nick the ball when they get through. They're not worried because who's it going to?
We've got no pace up top. That's right.
It's true. So we're not going to get threatened in behind. We've probably got time to recover if we lost it and go back and tackle him.
Exactly, spot on.
And I just think they get in that, and once you get in that mindset as a team coming and playing against Arsenal, that's a big confidence boost for you. That's like having an extra player.
It's very true.
And I worry that Wigan are going to feel like that at the weekend, and maybe just say, fuck it, this is what we're going to do as well.
Well, they're a decent side, mate. I do worry about little McManaman out on the right-hand side there. If he's playing against Monreal, who's not the best defender in the world.
No.
And he's full of beans. He's ruined He's ruined Man City twice, didn't he? You know, so I do worry. We haven't got that pace.
John, I understand you've got some stats for us.
Well, yeah. I mean, since January when the window closed, we were 1 point off of the pace of Manchester City up at top. Since then, there's been 30 points up for grabs. We've won 3, drawn 3, lost 4, scoring 11, conceding 18. If you go back and look at the full year results against the top 3 and Everton, we've got 6 points from 24, scoring 8, conceding 22. And then if you want to add the United matches, we've gotten 1 point from a possible 6. And Southampton, we've gotten 3 from the 6. So if you look at that top 9, we've not fared very well in conceding, obviously, all the goals that we've conceded this year. And I wanted to touch also on the point that Steve made and briefly David about losing the dressing room. I think, not only is it tactics, but, if you're sat there as a player and the same players that spike form get chosen time and time again to play with, same tactics get deployed, And unless there's, no matter what how the match is going, if not for injury or red card, the subs are coming on in 70 minutes. What motivation do you have to keep hitting your head against the wall? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. And that kind of seems to be what we're doing at the moment. Has he lost the dressing room? That's debatable, but if you look at what we've gone from, conceding counterattack goals because we were ourselves, attacking, passing, creating and scoring goals. Before it was okay because, we played really, pretty, quote unquote, pretty and total football. But now we're getting countered when we're just passing right outside the opponent's box. And, I think that's a sad state of affairs. And I think that there's a lot of factors to that. But, like David said, Wenger's got to change. Maybe we don't necessarily have to get a new manager, but the manager we do have has to be aware that change is needed.
I wanted to ask Dave quick what he thinks on this. Do you think that since Arsene Wenger's come in, he's revolutionised British football? He's been the leading light for so many years. But do you think that time's moved on and he's kind of stuck in his old ways, and the game's moved on past him and it's just passed him by?
I don't think. No, I don't think the game's passed him by. I think he's well aware of what's required. I just think for whatever reason, whether maybe because he hasn't got the players to do it, maybe he feels he hasn't got the players to change, and he hasn't got. I don't know. It's a tough one. I don't want to say that he's lost it because I don't think he has. So I'll make that point clear straight away. What I'm trying to say is I think he knows he needs to change, but change doesn't always come easy to people. If they had something they believed in so strongly and it works, why shouldn't it work again? But I think the more and more this happens, and we can condense it. Hopefully, it's only over a few months, and it's just the end of this season, and then he does change it for next season. I think it will be compounded, and he'll have to say, "Look, I need a couple of big, strong boys. I need a couple of big, fast boys. Maybe I've got to forfeit a bit of the pretty stuff. Maybe we've got to go back to the invincibles, and I'll turn them players, the big, strong ones and the fast ones. I'll coach them and turn them into the silkier players. I'll get them and I'll change them a bit, and and within that change the way we play, because I think he's not a stupid man, and I think he recognises that the game has developed again. It's gone from the pretty side that won things to pretty strong and fast, athletic, and maybe we're talking about all the injuries. Maybe he might have to think about the training regime and what they do, because other clubs are just not having this amount of injuries. So maybe he needs to look outside of his bubble again to see what's going on out there, because he's become very, very enclosed and very comfortable, and he's got to come out of that. But I don't think he's lost it. I just think he's got comfortable, and he needs to accept that he needs to change a bit.
I do think it's all about personnel as well. You can only play with the players that you've got, and the players that we have got, we're still a little bit stuck in that, trying to be like Barcelona, so to speak, where we're still playing that perfect game. I do believe that it will change over the next 18 months, and he'll try and mould a team around a German style, where they've got a little bit of tippy-tappy, plenty of quality, a proper goal scorer, but they're all, like you said, they're physical, they're tough.
Yeah. But Geoff, I think players, coming being an old player, players are happy to change.
Yeah, cool.
We're not like stubborn players saying, "Oh, I only want to play tippy-tappy football." If he said to him, "I want you to go in, I want you to get tight, I want you to do this, I want you to play a slightly different game, I want you to make runs into the box, Santi, I don't want you to keep coming deep, I want you to make a run in behind, and threaten the back for half a game, go out and do it." Yeah. Why? He's quick enough. He can do that. He could make the runs and adapt the players you've got. They've all got comfortable in this little. It's almost like all they do in training is small-sided games and little five-a-sides and that. And that's the way they play. Whereas training's about all different sorts of playing. And you can make players do anything. They're getting paid a lot of money. Change them and do what you want with them. You know, with the players you've got, make them be a bit more sort of defensive minded, or I don't mean defensive minded, but maybe a bit less concentrating on their little passes, and maybe take a few more chances. Our players are crying out for chances. I did the game, like I said, the game before Man City. I had some stats on Gibbs, and he put 14 crosses or 14 balls across the box. Giroud didn't get on the end of one of them, but because he didn't make any runs, he didn't gamble. So maybe we need to go back to that a bit. Maybe we need to go back to getting 1 or 2 free people in the box and start delivering in the box. Threaten teams that way. We just need to change.
And Steve, I understand you've got something to say.
Well, going back to what Dave said about Wenger's a very clever man, and he's very convinced in his own philosophy. It struck me at the time when Dave said it that in his book about Thierry Henry that Philippe Auclair wrote, he in a conversation with Henry about Wenger, he described Arsene Wenger as a genius who has the ultimate confidence in his own tactics and systems, and he pursues those with the Gallic flair of a gambler at the table who's got a system that he won't brook from. And I think that actually is the problem. I think that he's so convinced in his theories and his philosophy. I think, as Dave said, he's got himself into a bit of a bubble. And I think that, you know, there's a very thin line if you ever deal with geniuses. And, you know, during my work, I do work with people who've assembled some massive companies, massive brands, and the drive and the intensity of these people and the belief in their own philosophy and their products is incredible. But some of them actually get to the point where this starts to verge on the obsessive, and not seeing that markets and target audiences are changing in the same way, not seeing that the game is changing and other managers are adapting and changing, and they keep doing the same thing. And I think it actually worries me that Steve Bold sits there. I sometimes fear that he's going to have a stroke on the bench watching this unpleasantness unfold week by week, especially as a defender and someone who played alongside in George Graham's mean defence side. How he can sit there as the head coach and see all this go on, it's quite obvious that he's not allowed to, or doesn't feel he wants to say anything about it. But I think the whole thing comes from this philosophy, because, as Dave said, you said boys' day. Well, I disagree. I think we need men, and I think this is the problem. If you look at the German system, if you looked at Bayern versus United the other night, their midfield, no, they're young men, not small midgety pirouetty boys. We seem to be scouting the same sort of type of player: Jack Wilshere, Cazorla. We're not buying players who can cope with the physicality of the Premiership. We're not buying players who can cope with the physicality that's starting to appear in the Champions League either. We can't hold the ball. We've got Jack Wilshere, who wants to run with the ball, doesn't see that it would be better for him to give the ball and move and take a player with him. So constantly that style of play that he's just trying to shimmy past or slip through 2 players, he's constantly getting injured at that. And I think this is the whole problem, that things have moved on. You know, we've seen we've got this Dutch invasion into the youth squad, and apparently the next modernisation is the scouting network. I don't just think it's scouts we need to upgrade. I think it's the idea of the sort of players that we should be buying and should be scouting. I think we've had 9 years, if you like, of austerity under as far as the board would have us believe, even though the money's been there to spend all the time and they didn't want to invest it. But the fact is, we've now got to come out of that. We've got to have a different mentality. We've got to understand the market's moved on and up. We've got to understand that wages have gone up. And we've got to understand we have to get out there and buy players. Now, we're going to be in a transfer market competing with Chelsea. We're going to be in a market for a DM competing with other people, and probably a right back, and so on and so forth. It's about the realisation that things have moved on. And you can't sit at the table at Las Vegas at 4:00 in the morning, i.e., 6 weeks before the end of the league, when you're in first or second place, and you could have a chance of winning it because it's so open, and gamble that your last dollar, that Giroud will maintain his form despite the fact he's banged 8 brasses up the arse in a hotel room last week, or the fact that you can take like he did previously last season, that Diaby will stay fit. You know, the gambles which Arsenal are taking are off the pitch and they're costing them on the pitch. Yeah, I want to see players running and getting in behind and getting in the box, but we've got no pace in midfield and we've got no pace up front. So
yeah.
We basically do need to change, but not just change tactics on the pitch. We need to change the way we recruit people, the way we train, and we need to recreate the genius that Wenger had before.
Yeah, could I just ask John? John, I was just going to ask you something regarding that, mate, because my knowledge of the Spanish youth and the young players coming through over there isn't that great. Are they sort of adapting their players in Spain to have more physicality about them because football's changing?
I was just going to comment on that. That, you know, you see these hybrid teams now like Atletico Madrid that will impose themselves physically on a team like Barcelona, as we saw last night.
Yeah. And,
you know, it's kind of fading away from that, you know, tiki-taka type football to more, you know, possession. Let's get that, you know, I was watching the Atletico Madrid Villarreal game, I think it was this weekend. They got an early goal off a corner, and Villarreal didn't get a sniff the rest of the match. And it's kind of gone to that, you know, more of a physical game. You know, as we saw last night, I think they had, you know, 4 players just in the face of the 3 midfielders for Barcelona, and Messi was anonymous. Cesc was anonymous. They didn't do anything. And I think, you know, Wenger was enamored by that type of football, having Cesc in the side, Nasri, you know, but, you know, they were of a higher caliber and they were more complete players. The players that came behind them, while they had the talent, weren't as complete, and they were being asked to do the same type of thing.
They were more prospects than actual ready
exactly.
Players.
So, you know, you're asking a young guy that has idolized these players that you know, in practice and and you know, they're seeing what they're being asked to do, and they're trying for their talent. They're trying. I mean, we've seen the results of Jack early on, not so much recently because of the injuries. We've seen Rambo, you know, come along as much as he has, you know. So we've borne the fruits of that labor, but we've also dealt with the growing pains.
I think Aaron Ramsey is a perfect example of someone who's took it on their own back to change their self because they know they needed more physical in their game, and you know, he did. By his own admission, he did bulk up a bit. He did train harder in the gym. He did put more effort into his physical side. He looks like a much more physical player, and he looked the part.
Exactly.
You know, but he done that himself. He didn't do that. Weren't the club telling him to do that, or the coaches or whatever. And even Wenger said, you know, we've done an interview with him for one of the Arsenal assessments, and he said that he's impressed about how Aaron's put in the extra effort in training and, you know, put himself through extra training. Mate, why ain't you putting them through it? Why ain't you doing that? Do you know what I mean? Why is it left to a player to actually notice something, a need? Do you know what I mean? Did the player sit down and do his own personal development review and say, looking in the mirror, Aaron, do you know what? You need to do this and you need to do that. You know, and then the bloke in the mirror said back, yeah. Well, that should be your manager sitting down with you doing that.
Look at the accountability that Simeone has for those players. You know, you're going to play this type of game. This is going to be our tactics going into the match. If you don't fulfill what I want, there's somebody right behind you eager to take your place. Why? Because they know there's accountability. They know that you don't get the job done, somebody behind you is willing to try to get the job done, and I'm willing to take that chance. I don't think we have that right now.
No. So one of the things, let's make it very clear, is that if we had a board who actually had some ex-football people on it, and if we had a board that had some bollocks who actually wanted to win some stuff rather than collect our money in, they'd manage the manager and they'd help him out, and they'd take away all the shit that Arsene Wenger does that he shouldn't be doing and allow him to concentrate on the bloody football. And for me, I think that's a big problem. I think he's got too used to doing too much at the club, and he basically he's had those 8 or 9 years of all this grief, whether the money's been there or not, it very much looks like he either wasn't allowed to spend it or maybe he didn't want to. I don't know. No one really knows. But the fact is the board are really culpable because they've let their star performing employee struggle with a load of stress and shit he didn't need to, that they could have taken off of him. And they could have possibly brought in someone to act as a sidekick and a mentor to him to help him, perhaps have a look at some other things. So, I think it's as much senior management as the manager, but more so actually that the rest of the game had caught us up, and we've been.
You said earlier, Steve, about him being a genius as well. And I agree that I agree he's in that sort of that upper echelon of people that believe in themselves so fully and their way. Would he have give it up if they'd have tried to help him? Does he want to give it up? Is he that sort of single-minded, because that's what you have to be to be one of those people, is he that single-minded in his beliefs? Would he have taken the help, or have they offered help and he hasn't been willing to relinquish any responsibility? He wants to take on everything and be involved in everything because he believes so deeply in the Arsenal way and what he's set up since he came there on that very first day when we played in Germany, and he came to the game and he wasn't even manager, and I think it was Mönchengladbach, and he started everybody on vitamins. We'd never took vitamins before. The only vitamins we ever had were in, maybe in our fruit salad in the morning at the breakfast at the hotel.
In the boozer.
Well, that was the cocktails after, yeah. If we had a cherry in the champagne or something like that. Well, yeah, but we didn't, so he put his stamp on things straight away. As soon as he came there, he might have kept the same staff, but he said, "You're going to operate my way now," and that was from the start. So, maybe he don't want to give anything up. He likes the control.
But all star performing top level employees do. And it's very difficult to wrest back control and get them under managerial control when they're flying. The time you do it is when they stop flying and they start going down a bit. And that's when you come in and say, right, actually, the things have changed and we want you to do what you do best. And we don't want you doing this. We've got someone else who's better at you than doing that. And you bring in people to advise and help them. You play to their personality. You use their genius to make them understand that they've got to relinquish this to go back to being the best that they were. And to answer you, Dave, no one really knows whether help was offered. Personally, I doubt it because our board are fucking incompetent. And secondly, I think Gazidis is rather neutered as a CEO. But we'll never know. But I know Jeffrey's got something he wants to tell us about.
Well, I don't know what David thinks about it, but I've read a blog in the week, and it just got me thinking in my mind, because they're obviously at the start of next season they're taking over the 3 Dutchmen, and the main one of those who's taking over the academy is Andreas Jonker. Now, I understand that he was an assistant to Louis van Gaal for I think a couple of years, and he seems a little bit overly qualified, if I can say that, as that post. Maybe, I don't know, but maybe
he might be Bayern manager as well, Geoff.
He was the Bayern manager, yeah, and maybe they're tailoring him to take over maybe in 2 or 3 years' time from Wenger, or maybe his input. Because he's an assistant coach to Louis van Gaal, so he can't be a mug, can he? I don't know a lot about him, apart from what I've just read. But
well, if you want to know, he was he's had a load of work in Holland with youth teams. He was the Dutch youth and regional selections from Wikipedia. Volendam assistant manager, Holland's assistant manager from 2000 to 2003. Barcelona assistant manager. Then he managed MVV in Holland, and then Willem II. And then he managed them after being assistant. Then Bayern Munich assistant for 3 years. Then Bayern Munich manager for 5 games. And he was undefeated, and then back to being assistant manager, and then he was Wolfsburg assistant manager until he's come and took over the academy at Arsenal for the beginning of this coming season. I think you've got a good point there, Geoff. Looks like he's vastly overqualified and could be sneaking in through the back door, because everyone says it's going to be that Stojkovic bloke from Japan, who is absolutely awful. But yeah, you've got a point there. I think it's could well happen. I'll shut up now.
That might be a little bit of help that Wenger takes on. and he might just be in the back room. But if he can come and add something to the tactics, the Dutch are normally very, very good, aren't they? So hopefully, I don't know what you think about it, David.
Well, I think obviously, there's no doubt about his qualifications and his credits, and how good a coach and manager he possibly could be. But he's there as well, I think, as much for his networking, his knowledge of the European game and the young players coming through. I think that would be a huge advantage because, he'll have contacts with other clubs and all of that. And how Arsenal like to bring players through. But I do kind of think that maybe he is there to offer maybe that support like Steve was talking about, someone there who Wenger can actually bounce off and, have a more modern approach and maybe change his approach a bit. And he might be able to take a bit of the heat off of Wenger. I know he's just with the academy, but once the academy day's over, you're not telling me he ain't going to talk about the first team and have, be talking about maybe what the first team could do, players he could bring in and stuff. So, yeah, I think he could be there to sort of be a sort of a sidekick with, I don't want to discredit Baldy because Baldy's done well with with running the academy side and that, and he's got all his qualifications, but
no disrespect to Baldy and Banfield, but they haven't really got that European experience.
No, don't stand up to that network of working with all those clubs, with all those big players, with all those big players big players, don't mean like actual football players, but big players in the game, agents, scouting networks and all of that, or his knowledge of all of that will just be, it's unattainable for Baldy and Neil Banfield. They will never have that. So you've got to have someone at the club with that, and by securing him, he probably will be key in the development of players, but also in the way Arsenal now move forward, because I think they recognise they need a change. And, bring some big, strong Europeans in who can add a bit of weight to the side, add a bit of physicality. He could well be brought in for that.
Right then, shall we move on? I've got a fever. Cup fever. Normally we don't. Normally we don't look ahead to games, but seeing as such an important one is on the horizon, we all found it necessary to discuss our trip to Wembley. I think a lot of our fans have already got Arsenal in the final. So, Danny, should we be so confident?
Well, yes, we should be. Everyone moans at me for being negative. I've just had some people on Twitter saying that I shouldn't have complained. Why am I so negative after losing 6-0? But we're not going to talk about that. This is a positive podcast, and I think we can go out there and we can. Should we go as far as to say we can beat them easily? Well, I think we should do. Then they're quite a decent championship team. They had most of their decent players nicked off them. But you look at when, before Uwe Rosler came in, they were rubbish. They were floating around mid-table to the bottom half of the championship. I don't think they're going to go up this season. I doubt it very much, because Leicester have got one of the places already, and the other one, the second place, looks like it's going to be Burnley. And then I think it could be one of only about 5 or 6 teams that are going to win the playoffs. So I can't. Maybe QPR will probably jam the playoffs because they just chuck a load of money at it, or someone a few brown envelopes. But we were talking pre-podcast, and you said have a look at who scored all their goals, and I was surprised to see their 3 top goal scorers in all competitions are all midfielders. You've got Nick Powell, central midfielder. He's on loan from Man United. He's got 13 goals in 28 games. So he's going to be a bit of a handful. And then Jordi Gomez, who was a Barcelona youth player, he's got 9 goals in 27 games. And then Ben Watson, he's got 5 in 25. And then they've got one of their other strikers, Marc Anton Fortuné. He's got 5. So I don't think they're going to be much trouble. I know they've had a couple of decent wins, and they were lucky to beat the other teams. I mean, how the hell you beat Man City? It just shows how fickle Man City can be on the day. You never know what team is going to turn up. Usually if they can't score 8 goals, they're not going to bother. I think we could easily beat them 2 or 3-0. I know we're not doing the predictions just yet, but I think we will easily beat them. It's not very often that you see me of late being overly confident, but I think Wenger's going to put a rocket up their arse because he realises this is the last chance we've got to win a trophy in Europe. Next season we've got the WAFA Cup. We can probably have a good run at that. This season it's just this his last chance of a trophy, and so I think he's going to go all out for it. If the players give a damn about the manager, they will stop mucking around and being moronic in in whatever positions they're playing in, and maybe take it a little bit on their own backs if they see something's going wrong. Use their own footballing experience and sort it out rather than look to Wenger the whole time, because I think it's a little bit clear at times that the players on the pitch aren't making enough decisions on their own. But then again, occasionally when they do make their own decisions, they're not the right ones. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's a weird kickoff as well. They say it's 7 minutes past 5. Is that right? Or was that a typing error that I read?
I wouldn't be able to tell you.
Or make it up.
No, it's not. It's 7 minutes past 5 because all the games kick off 7 minutes late as a tribute to Hillsborough.
Yeah.
We'll go over to Steve, and to you I ask, what does it mean to the fans for a day out at Wembley, Steve?
Well, it's not final, but it's still a day out at Wembley. It's a semi-final, and it's a big game. You know, I mean, if you like, it's probably one of the first semi-finals Arsenal have ever played in where we're the underdogs. Wigan might like to paint themselves as the underdogs, but given our recent form, we're the underdogs. And, you know, I think it's going to be a special semi-final because so many Wigan fans haven't taken their tickets. It's going to be basically 60,000 Arsenal fans in there, probably. I hope that those fans that are going show what it means to them by turning the place red and yellow, singing loud and proud, and they have a good day out, and they play a really massive part in spurring the team on and giving him that extra yard of zip and getting behind him. And I think, you know, we've gone through all the nasty shit now. Now's the time, as somebody wrote in his blog this morning, I think it was our own GC's blog, it's time for everybody to put down their flags of little groups or stash their opinions away and get behind the lads and cheer them on. I remember as a kid being at a cup semi-final when we were coasting against Man United, and all of a sudden bloody Scottish Ponce, Gordon McQueen, scored twice, and we were right under the cosh until very late on. Liam Brady just stepped up and did his magic with Alan the Perm Sunderland, and that's the magic of the cup. You know, or, you know, sat there at 11 years old watching Charlie George smash it in against the Scousers. And people should go there and they should enjoy it, and they should take their kids if they can afford it, because you don't get many days out at Wembley, and they're to be enjoyed. So yeah, let's go there. The team have to be buzzing and up for it. You know, they should be up for it. It's a beautiful pitch. It suits our game. Keep the ball, move it around, move Wigan around, tire them out, and then hit them hard.
And Dave, from a player's point of view, does the fact that it's not a final, but it is at Wembley, detract from the day itself?
Well, I think an old traditional player maybe, someone, you know, back in our day, it might have done, because we was always used to just the final being played there. But I think it's become the norm now, isn't it? Over the last so many seasons, it is what's happened. So I think it's pretty much expected. So I don't think it detracts from it being a semi-final and not being a final. I don't think it makes a big difference. You know, I will agree that it's Arsenal. In my book, Arsenal probably are slightly underdogs as on paper, just on current form. But, you know, we've got more than enough to take care of Wigan. You know, I'm with Danny. I think, you know, obviously on our day, we know we can be good, but we've got more than enough to take care of Wigan, even if we don't play at 100%. The thing that worries me, and it's the same thing we've been talking about all night, is the game plan. That's what bothers me. Are Arsenal going to actually have a look at them and say, this is what we need to do? We're going to counter this and we're going to do that to win this game, or are they going to say, right, we're just going to go and play a normal game? Because I know that Rosler, I mean, you look at the game they played last week against Millwall, he made 8 changes in preparation for this semi-final. And he's done that, and he ain't done that without doing no homework either on how he wants to play, and he'd have been working all week solid on tactics and how to beat Arsenal. And he would have looked at all our big hidings we've had this season and said, what can my players do? They might not have the quality of Liverpool or Everton, or, you know, or anyone that's beat us really fair and square, but if we play to our best and we try and play like that, you know, what can we do? So that's my only worry. But I think I agree with Steve. It's a great day out at Wembley for the families, for kids to go there. There'll be great memories. It won't make no difference that it's a semi-final. Arsenal go out and win. The little 7-year-old or 10-year-old kid that goes there, sings his heart out all game, will remember that when he's 25, when he's 30, when he's 35, when he's 40, when his dad took him to Wembley. He'll remember the sauce he had on his hot dog. He'll remember how many drinks he had, and he'll remember everything about the day. It's still a great day at Wembley.
Fantastic. We'll move on to you then, Geoff. And Arsene Wenger's already come out and said that Fabianski's going to start. So can we see any other surprise inclusions in the squad for this game?
I don't think so. I think he's going to go strong, to be perfectly honest with you. And he's going to need to go strong. This is going to be a difficult game. There's no doubt about that. Wigan have already got the experience. They've been there and they've played Man City the other week and turned them over and was well worthy of it. One thing you do know about a Uwe Rosler side is that they're very organised. They're very physical. And he'll get them organised physically and mentally for the game, and as well tactically. He knows full well that they haven't got the same quality as Arsenal, but what I will know is that they're as fit as Arsenal. I promise you that. They're definitely as fit as Arsenal. And once you're playing at Wembley, and they're a lower league team, so to speak, in inverted commas, you'll get that extra 10%. And that extra 10%, if you see a little chink of armour, a little bit of the defeatist in Arsenal's game, they'll jump on it and they'll jump all over us. It's going to be a difficult game, but I do think we'll come through because we have got that. We just got to match them. Got to match them for the first 20 minutes. Don't worry about scoring a goal. We score, that's fine. But just match them physically, and we've got to earn the right to play. The old cliche, but you have got to. In some of them games, you've got to earn the right to play, and hopefully the last 20 minutes, once they've run out of a little bit of steam, your little bit of quality should take over the game and have enough. So let's be patient, but we should get through it, hopefully.
I think we should be positive for this one. John, a fan of tactics, I'll ask you the same question as pretty much I just asked Geoff. Can we see anyone surprised starting the game? What formation do you think he'll use, and what other players do you think will be in and around the starting 11 for this game?
Well, I think you're going to look at a strong team. Whoever is, fit and able, I think will be on the pitch. Hopefully he won't, personal preference, of course, won't start, a double pivot of Flamini and Arteta. I think if we go in with that mindset off the bat, I think we're going to, have a tough time of it. But, let's look at Wigan's last 5 matches as well. They've won 1, drawn 1, and lost 3. So it's not like they're at top level, either. And, the FA Cup has been a tournament that we've, taken the results from league play, kind of thrown those out the window, and have come back and beaten, Everton, come back and beaten Liverpool, beating the scum down the road. So, I'm quietly optimistic about this weekend.
Danny?
I wasn't eating midi cheddars at all.
You were. Have you literally?
I was just eating half a pack.
You had your mute on.
I'd eaten half a pack of them and a bottle of Lucozade while I've been listening to you. Like, what a great load of chat. Go on, summarise what the question is while I add Mr. Hillier back in.
Oh no! Literally, I was just gonna ask you for your prediction.
Of the game?
For the game, please.
Okay, well, I'll go 3-0, and I'll say, who's going to score the first goal? I think I'm going to go Cazorla. Cazorla's definitely going to score the first goal because, he's been I think he's going to prove a point now that he's playing in the. I was arguing, French John, who does the French podcast.
Yes,
I was having a little disagreement with him. He was saying that he thinks Cazorla's been out of order and he's been shit. I said, well, since Ozil has been out, Cazorla's had the free role in midfield, and so I think he's been playing well. He's scored a few goals. He's making runs into the centre of midfield. He's got 2 foot. Oh, someone had a go at me last time, didn't they? When I said, is he ambidextrous with his feet? They went, why don't you just say he's got 2 feet? So he can use either foot, go in any direction. I think someone like that. There was one of the Twitter questions. Who should play in the Ozil hole at the weekend? Should it be Rosicky or should it be Cazorla? And I think Cazorla. Because I just think he's just absolutely brilliant. And it just shows that he hasn't lost his form too much, but he's just been asked to play a different game to what he was last season. So 3-0, Cazorla first scorer, and Dave's back in.
Superb. Steve, your prediction, please.
I think it's going to be a very hard game. I think we'll win it 2-1, and I think the first score will be Aaron Ramsey.
Fantastic. Geoff?
Well, I've been to all Arsenal's cup finals since 1971 and all those Champions League games when we first got in the Champions Leagues, and I can quite honestly say, apart from after the game, I've not enjoyed one game. Maybe the Newcastle game was a little bit more comfortable, but we always seem to go through it. The fans always seem to go through the mire, and it's really, really difficult. I don't think anything's going to change. I think we're going to be 0-0 right up until the last 15 minutes, and we'll nick one and win 1-0. I'm not going to go with Giroud anymore. He's fucking... I keep on picking him, and he's gone dead on me. I'm going to go with Thomas Rosicky.
Superb. And John?
I think it'll be tough opening minutes, but I think we'll get through. I'm going to go 3-1 with Ramsey.
Ooh. And Dave?
Yeah, well, I reckon I'm going to go with Steve. I reckon it's going to be 2-1, but I'm going to back Geoff's favourite horse that always don't come in. I'm going to back Giroud. I reckon he'll get the first goal, and it'll be Sanya will whip a crossover. It'll be a first time finish, because anything he takes more than one touch with, he fucks up. And it'll just be a little tap in for him, and we'll go 1 up. But I reckon it'll be a long time coming. I don't reckon that will come till second half.
I'm going 3-1 Podolski, just to chuck that one in. Danny, I know you've got something to say about the Predictions League, haven't you?
Yeah, sorry people, if you do keep an eye on it, because it is the second most viewed page on our website, behind the upcoming shows, which I've now updated all the shows with all the schedule of who's coming on up until the second week in May. But in the we've had Stuart's inquiry, and Geoff has been docked points because he tried to slip me 50 quid for extra points. So Geoff is bottom with minus 500.
Well, how are we getting on with that Predictions League? I'm scared to look.
Geoff's top with 54, FK 46, John 44, Guests 42, GC 41, Gimli 41, Steve 39, and someone called Danny at the bottom with 38. I can't see how that's gone on.
Yes, I'm not last.
I've won it, and I really. With 6 games to go, surely I've won it.
I've not updated the Everton game yet, but considering every single person, apart from me and FK, picked an Arsenal win, I don't think much has changed then. Look, what
does the winner get, Danny? A packet of your cheddars?
No, it's a full tutorial from Steve on how to play Hide the Sausage.
Or a spit roast from Steve and Gav.
No, FK. He's like a dog with two dicks. He'll be into that.
He's the spit roast man.
I'm not sharing anything with him.
Who scored the first goal for Everton at the weekend? I can't remember. Did he?
Lukaku, yeah, after Naismith had that shot, wasn't it?
Okay, well, if Lukaku scored the first one, FK and me have got...
No, Naismith scored the first one, didn't he?
Yeah, Naismith.
Yeah, Naismith. He tucked it in.
Yeah, Lukaku had the shot and it come back.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, Dave's already predicted 3, and I can't go through them all and see how many, but I'm sure Dave's got a pretty decent record when it comes to guessing.
I've just got to say one thing. Gims, you said earlier on that when Steve's playing Hide the Sausage, is he going for gold?
Yeah.
Yeah, just don't go for brown.
Oh, I love it.
Oh, the show's reached an all-time new low.
So, with that thought, Danny?
Minge to anal sex in 5 seconds.
Oh no! See, I'm a snooker man myself. The pink's worth 6, the brown's only worth 4. I never go near the brown.
Or the tricky brown, that's the question. Danny, over to you for some Twitter questions, please.
Okay, we've got quite a few. I must apologise to people because every week what we do, if we've got enough time, we try and slip a few questions in. And so this time we've got a few. This one is aimed at Dave. It's from Carl the Walrus, who is at Carl_the_Walrus. He says, ask Dave how a team can be so shit for the first half, yet a stonking, great word, second half. Why can't Wenger get the players up for the first half like he does with the second half? I think he means of late, or he. I mean, a Walrus, I don't know if they're he or she. What do you say, Dave?
Well, I don't know. Maybe like what me and Geoff were talking about earlier, maybe the players do come out of themselves a little bit and try and make amends. They play a little bit out of their remit and try and make things happen in the second half. But they still don't come out fully and do it properly like they should. But maybe they just get a bit pissed off and just up the ante a bit because what they was being asked to do wasn't working. Don't know. You know, for me that should happen after 10 minutes. You know, if it ain't going right after 10 minutes, you should get on with it and change. Or maybe Arsene Wenger just gives them such a bollocking at half time that we don't know about that they do make a change.
Okay.
Baldy.
Well, yeah, there's got to be some.
Arson Baldy, yeah.
Baldy scares the shit. He says to him, if you fuck up the first half, Bold's getting you for the second half. Right, this is a question for everyone. One word answer from everyone. This is from Matthew Barham, who is at MATTMARC 2000. Your favourite ever Arsenal fringe player. While you lot are thinking of which one of that, my one would be Oleg the Horse Luciani, just because him and Nelson Vivas. I thought they're both fucking mentalists who would kill and then ask questions later. So, has anybody got an answer? Because I won't surprise anyone. Put your hand up. Steve, I see you got your hand up there.
No, I haven't.
Okay, John, did you have your hand up?
No, not yet.
Dave, you got your hand up?
Glenn Helder.
Oh, the mighty Glenn. I remember
That's
his first ever
mate.
game against Nottingham Forest.
Oh,
He was
mate,
brilliant.
Top man. He was the funniest bloke ever.
So are you in contact with him now?
I've tried recently.
Yeah.
But, I've got someone sent me a fucking dodgy Twitter account for him, didn't I? I sent him a couple of messages in Dutch,
Yeah.
as you do. Done me Google Translate,
Ah.
and then someone else told me it was a fake account, so I swore at him in Dutch after that.
Go on, Gim, have you got one?
No.
What?
I just haven't. I can't really think of any. There's been so many over the
say
years.
Andy Linnigan, because he scored the...
Say Eddie McGoldrick.
Oh, Eddie. Eddie was brilliant.
Yeah, he's good.
One
Good as
sunny
gold, mate.
One sunny afternoon at Highbury, I saw the best game he ever had in his life. I think he might have even scored a couple.
You could say Andy Linnigan. Tell them what he's got on his van, Danny. Because is he a plumber now, isn't
Yeah,
he?
he says, I think on his website, he goes, I'm a better plumber than I was a footballer.
Fair play.
So if you typed Andy Linnigan plumber into the goggle, as Steve would say, then it will come up with that. Have you got anyone yet, Geoff?
I'm just going to go for a fun fact of John Hawley, because John Cosmina, the blonde Australian. Remember back in the late 70s, mate? He was fucking awful, useless.
Steve, you got one yet?
What are we looking for here? Someone really hideous?
Oh, just something funny that was a fringe player that didn't play much.
I did like Chris White until he got nicked for cheque fraud.
Oh, dear, he was a legend in American indoor.
Oh, what about Gus? He goes down in history, doesn't he?
I think Gus gets a hard time of it, bless him.
I think Gus Caesar is much maligned. I mean,
So do I.
I met Stepanovs once in Warsaw. This is quite a good story. And I went in the Sheraton to meet Freddie Lundberg because he was playing. He was playing here for Sweden versus Poland, and they were playing Poland on the Wednesday night, and Latvia were playing another team. I think it was Georgia that were playing them in Legia Warsaw's ground here on the Thursday because there was a war going on in Georgia. And I walked into the bar and I saw Freddie there. Went up and said hello to him. We were having a drink. He brought Stepanovs over. And to say he wasn't playing with a full barbecue is fucking understatement. He could not grasp the concept of someone being an expat. He could not understand that English people live abroad. They still support the club that they were brought up with as a kid. And all these Swedish players were falling about laughing, taking the piss out of him. And he looked like a great big, does anybody remember the Muppet Show? Do you remember the Beaker character?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that is Stepanovs. Anyway, to cap the story off, not only did he have a blinder for Latvia, but he scored the winner with a 30-yard volley against Poland the next week, so I rather liked him after that.
Jesus. Igor Stakhanovs. Strong as ox, peace like bull.
Go on, have you got one, John?
To keep it current, I mean, you have to say, the last 3-4 years, Santos. Because I don't want to go, but I liked Santos. I didn't like him as a player. Obviously, I mean, besides the Chelsea game, he didn't have much to offer. But I mean, like Podolski, the shit that he put on Twitter and that kind of stuff, kind of, made you reevaluate life at times.
He said fringe player, not minge player, because we all know he was a bit...
Okay, well, I want a one-word answer, yes or no, from each of you, and if you stray, you will be electrocuted. Nikki Wilson, who is at Nikki G. Wilson, that's Nikki with a Y, says, if we went into the Europa League next season, would we win it? And I'll go left to right. Gimli.
No.
Geoff.
Yep.
Dave.
Yeah.
John.
We won't be in it, but sure, why not?
He should be electrocuted.
He's electrocuted, that
Have you
fucker.
seen the size of John? He'll kill us. He'll break us all in half and leave
It
us
just
dead.
take longer. Take 5 minutes to electrocute the bastard.
Put him in a bath of Jack Daniels and chuck a toaster in.
That's it. He'd like that.
The
He'd
bath
like that.
will be dry before the toaster lands.
Oh, what a way to go.
Steve.
Yes, and we'll beat Tottenham in the final to take the piss.
In a tournament we don't even want to win. Okay, so that's that question asked. This is quite a good one. I think I'll only put this one to probably Steve at first because he'll go on for an hour. Norris, who is at Norris_Sutton. I would love to know why Arsenal never replaced David Dean's position. Main reason for lack of transfers, I reckon. Go on, Steve. What do you reckon? What do you know?
Main reason David Dean wasn't replaced was David Dean. No one asked him to go and try and sell other people's shares without their permission or knowledge. That's why Danny Fisman sacked him. I think after that, because he was so close to Arsenal, I think the board found it very difficult as non-footballing types to try and find him someone that he could sufficiently trust and have confidence in to add anything to the party that he would want, and secondly, that he could accept. Second thing is I don't think they even tried.
And there was that book, Building a Super Club or something like that, and the author of that made a point in there saying that when David Dean told Wenger that he was been sacked or got rid of, Wenger asked him, should I resign too? And I think that kind of shows what kind of relationship those two had. Anyone else want to say a little bit about that? Why has David Dean not been replaced?
Because we want to save money. If you look at, listen, remember that link that I sent you about the spreadsheet for the transfer?
Yeah, MetaWad.
Yeah,
your blog that you did a few days ago.
Yeah, if you look at that, if you see the really huge transfers and the really, profitable transfers for Arsenal as far as on the pitch, it happened when Dean was at the club. Since he's left, it's not been a great track record, has it?
I think you say in your blog, I'm just reading here, in the 9 years since Arsenal last won a trophy, Wenger has made roughly £63 million, but there was no money. Another quick bit from your blog. Since the decision not to bring anyone in January, Arsenal have played 10 league matches. The club at that time was in the running for the Premiership, 1 point off first place Manchester City. Since then, there have been 30 points up for grabs. Arsenal have won 3, drawn 3 and lost 4. Whilst conceding 11 goals. So if anybody wants to go and read the rest of John's blog, go to www.bergkampwonderland.co.uk, and underneath John's Twitter thing, I'll have a link to his blog, as the same it will with Dave's, as his Arsenal assessment, and Steve's with his one, and Geoff's one, it just has a internet link to a site selling slippers. And Gimli's one is some kind of stuff that you don't want to click on unless you're over 30.
Or ginger.
Oi, don't say you're ginger because you're not your strawberry blonde. We keep telling you. Dave, did you have any dealings with Mr. Dean?
Yeah, I sorted out my contracts with Dave and Jules when I was there, the gaffer. But I'll sum it up by saying there's only one David Dean. That's why he ain't been replaced. I loved him. I thought he was a great bloke. And he was obviously a massive, massive friend and confidant of Wenger. For Wenger to have said something like that about him. He was a lovely man. He was a really, really lovely man. He was good to all the players. He never distinguished between, the high profile players or just the water carriers like me. Everyone was important. And that's probably why he attracted players to the club and was involved in the transfer dealings, because he could do a deal.
But don't you think that he was, a great counterbalance? Oftentimes you say, genius is oftentimes, a bit out there as far as the way they think, and they always need somebody to rein them in.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, was his business sugar or something like that? He was into sugar commodities and stuff like that,
Yes,
apparently he had millions, then he lost it all and went down to almost nothing, and then he got it all back again.
He was defrauded by an employee and because of that he got a margin call where basically all the debts the employee set up when he defrauded the company, so they had to put it all up. So that's where he had to sell shares to Danny Fisman, and that's also he built his business back up through selling his Arsenal shares.
Yeah, and that's the mark of someone who's got them resources and can do that, and they're always good people to have around. And no, I wouldn't ever say a bad word about David Dean, just in case he ever listens and he offers me a job. Hello, David. How are you, mate?
We love you too.
I think he paid.
Or introduces you to his lawyer.
I think he paid £500,000 for his shares in Arsenal. Can you imagine that nowadays?
Bloody hell. Steve, you know that massive blog you did that everyone loves that you did a couple of years ago? Have you talked about all this kind of stuff in that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I haven't really got onto the third bit. I mean, the biggest thing about Dean was when Hillwood sold that big tranche of shares to David Dean. Hillwood described it in the newspaper as Dean being an idiot and buying, it was dead money, and that's why he sold them. And it's pretty obvious that Dean was on the inside. He knew that the Premier League was going to be set up. He was on the inside of it with the former Everton chairman and the former Manchester United chairman, and he was on the inside track with it with Sky, with Alan Sugar. And he knew it was going to happen. And I think afterwards, that's where a rift between Hillwood and Dean started, that Hillwood sort of felt that Dean cheated him, wasn't particularly overtly honest about his vision for the club. But then again, at the end of the day, it's not just buyer beware, it's seller beware. No one forced him to sell them.
So if anybody wants to go and read Steve's legendary, and we do mean legendary, blog, it's again on the front page of our website, and it's got a link to it straight there. We've got one more question, Mr. Gimli, if that's all right.
Yeah, I have one for myself from Jason Davies.
Oh, go on then.
Okay, he sent me this through WhatsApp, and he said it's a question from his friend, and his friend asks, I manage what can be described as a Sunday league side. We spent a couple of quid in the summer on a bunch of cunts that jump around like scared kids when the ball comes their way, and I have a lazy twat of a striker who never scores when it matters. But when he does, the annoying cunt gives me a fucking salute as if he's won the Victoria Cross. Does the panel have any advice for me? Yours truly, Desperate from Boreham Wood.
Well, we've got our friend Chris Hillier, who is the Norwegian bloke brought up in Brighton, now living in Argentina, teaching the South Americans to speak English, which is what his job there is. It's our first ever WhatsApp question. And it's a bit of a long one, but it's more of a statement than a thing. He says, why are people so reluctant to give TV5 a chance to prove he's a good player? But many are willing to forgive Fabianski's many horrendous, that's Steve's word, mistakes. I was at Wigan in 2009 when he threw the 2 balls into the back of the net. We were still in with a chance to win the title until we threw away that 2-0 away lead. The point is TV the latest of many Arsenal scapegoats? And do us as Gooners have a culture of scapegoating individuals, Ramsey being the best example? I think, yes, we do. We've had Ramsey, we've had Aboué, we've had so many of them over the years, haven't we?
He's not good enough. Simple as that. He's not good enough for the Premiership. His concentration's not good. He ball watches a lot. He also follows the ball once he goes back into the midfield. So as he's following the ball, he's leaving a great big gaping hole behind him. I just don't think he's a Premiership footballer. I really don't. That's my opinion.
Geoff's bang on there. I mean, even in the last couple of games where he's played, you've seen Flamini telling him to get the fuck back. And he makes a lot of individual errors. Not good enough.
If anybody wants to debate that with Chris, his @ is HYLLANDINHO. Right, my final question is from the lovely Selena, who is at Turk is Haughty Goon. Oh my God. TURKISH and then ORTY and then Goon. I think she ran out of
Turk is Shorty.
Yeah, but it's not. It's Turk is Shorty. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Go on with it.
Sorry. Big if, but if we win the FA Cup, who should lift the trophy first? I think it should be the BFG. Anyone?
Well, if CV5 plays, he's got to lift the cup, hasn't he? Apart from that, it'd be the vice captain.
What's he done to win it? Or
it's just following in the rules, mate. I think tradition.
I think the BFG could hold up the cup, Wenger and the rest of the squad, and then march around with them all on his back.
Me being a Wenger, right? I think Arsene Wenger should go up and lift the cup. That's the fucking spanner in the works.
I think what would be nice is if TV picked it up, didn't hold it up in the air, and then gave it to the BFG to lift up. That would be nice.
That would be good. There again, Wenger would probably say he's won the trophy, and he'll go there and go, what does the trophy look like? I can't remember. And he'll pick up a cup or a mug or a plate or some cucumber sandwiches from that lot up there.
We've got to get there first, though, mate, please.
So, okay, go in order again. We go from last first. Steve, who should hold the cup up?
Can we get to the final first?
All right, then fair enough. John? Who do you think if we should get to the final and win it?
Whoever's captain on the day for me.
Okay, Dave?
Yeah, captain on the day.
Jeff?
No, I'm not going to bock us, mate. We'll wait till we get there.
Gim?
He's asleep.
He's off knocking one out.
Fucking mute button. I'm going with Geoff.
Well, on the mute button or anything like that? There you go. It's been a little bit longer than usual, but I think Gimli's going to go and wrap this schnizzle up now.
I certainly am. As we do every week, I'm going to end this podcast with some shout-outs. So, Dave, seeing as you're the guest, we'll do it a little bit different this week, and we'll go with you.
What do you want, a shout-out from me?
Yeah, just anybody.
I'm going to shout out to all the team for Saturday. Go out, kick Wigan's arse.
Fantastic. Steve?
2 shout-outs. One is for all those fame-seeking celebrity whores that write blogs for hits. Fucking stop it, for the fucking sake of us all. Please, will grown men stop being interviewed on Arsenal Fan TV having fucking breakdowns like fucking PMSing birds outside a fucking family planning clinic. And the last bit of my shout out is to someone she knows who she is, she's not been very well, and she's under a lot of stress. Get better soon, and let's hope we win the game on Saturday.
Jeff?
I've got one shout out, and that is to the lovable at Raj Patel, who's a friend of the podcast and is part of the Black Scarf movement, because he gave me a couple of complimentary tickets to go and see the Bootleg Beatles last week.
How much did you get for them?
Which he's the manager of, and I'll tell you what, they're not a good group. Go and have a look at them. My life, if you shut your eyes, you'd think they was the Beatles, mate. And then you open your eyes and they wasn't.
We went and saw him in Warsaw when he was out here.
Oh, they're brilliant, mate.
He was
honestly.
in Cambridge a few weeks ago, and he offered me some tickets as well.
Should have gone. Mate.
Didn't have my van sorted out. The FFP.
A big shout out to Raj anyway. Thank you very much, sir.
35 quid a piece was what he actually meant to say, Danny. If they're ever coming to Oxford, Raj, you know where I am. And Danny?
Jake Arsenal, who I've known for many, many moons on the old Arsenal forum, which is onlinearsenal.com, probably the best Arsenal forum I've ever used. There's only one twat on there, but apart from that, everyone else is lovely. And Jake is at JakeArsenal1, and he has a blog that he does, theloadedcannon.wordpress.com. And my other shout goes out to the Ultimate Warrior, who died a few days ago. Very sad, one of the great legends of wrestling. And I know our very own Chris Carpenter is giving me a virtual high five there. We're going to miss you, Ultimate Warrior, you crazy, rope-shaking, mental lunatic.
And you next, John?
For me, it's going to be a couple, and they own the same site, so it's, very easy to follow. Gunnerstown.com, Invisiblog, and GunnerDave66. Out of all the bloggers, I think they run a great site. It's been putting out some great content, so go give them a follow.
They are by far the best Arsenal blogging site, and we support them 100%.
Quite by far, and Paul's a lovely bloke. I've been lucky enough to do 2 podcasts with him, and I'm not sure if he's been on with here for a full podcast, but he will be coming on sooner or later. And I think Dave's even been on once or twice. I couldn't understand a word he said.
And Andy.
Yeah, well, I can't understand a word they say. It's all eggy thump and whippets.
Lovely. My shout out this week goes to Matt Lucas, the one and only. I had a lovely chat with him today, and he's confirmed he'll be joining us in the pre-season for a good old chinwag about the Arsenal. All that's left to do now is to thank all the guests for joining Danny and I tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
There you go.
So that was a Bergkamp Wonderland podcast. Thank you very much for listening, and enjoy Wembley. Good night.
Nanu, cheeky monkeys.
That's all I've got to say about that, gentlemen.